Hi guys, so the first game of Season 9 of Mamemeister's high score Kerfuffle is done, and for the past 2 weeks we've been playing Jackal, released by Konami in 1986. Jackal is a run and gun, or more accurately, a driving gun, and in its Japanese release that we were playing, plays like a classic run and gun such as Commando. In many ways, this is Konami's take on that great game. Compared to Commando, the pace of Jackal is a little different. You need to be somewhat methodical, often needing to take out the majority of enemies in an area before proceeding. There are also power-ups that increase the power of your secondary shot. You start out with grenades, but these quickly become rockets. When powered up, they have a wide explosion, taking out units in close proximity. I found this key to success, as you can take enemies out before it gets too hairy. Something that is tricky about the game is that because you're driving a jeep, rather than being a person, and the direction of fire of the Japanese ROM is the changing of direction and accurate shooting of enemies. The Western ROM only shoots up, enabling you to drive past underneath enemies, picking them off, which can be easier than the precise shooting required in the Japanese ROM. The Japanese ROM does allow shooting to the sides and behind you, which is an advantage in certain sections though. I managed to get a few sessions in this week, and it was fun playing on the Mister, facilitated by Colin sorting an MRA file for the Japanese ROM. The game is pretty difficult though, and I did eventually start to get the hang of it. A good run can turn bad, with just a couple of wrong moves though. Definitely requires a fairly high level of precision. It has been a grower, and I definitely can't say it's a bad game. But if I want a run and gun, I definitely fire up Commando before this, every time. The game did see a few home releases. There was a NES port that's fairly well known, and then it also came on the Spectrum, Amstrad, and there were 2 different versions on the C64. I won't be featuring any home versions this week, but I've prompted Alan to do an arcade perfect my arse on this, which is one of the few games he's not covered. So not a terrible game to start the season, but I think we've probably got better to come. Let's take a look at the scores before we see what the next game will be. So I've had 17 scores sent to me, including a return from both Alex and Pingy, who both own the PCB. Pingy had to do a region swap, which is great commitment to the cause. Nice to have them both in the competition again. From Milthy and 14th onwards, scores are pretty close, gradually increasing to the top. My Retro Tech is 10th, and the first over 100,000 points. Pingy streamed some of his efforts, and is finished in 9th. I put in a chunk of time yesterday, and managed to get a good run going. That has landed me in 8th place. I was quite pleased with that run, so everyone above me has done pretty well. Mark, KMA, Bob and Alex are the next 4, all between 160 and 190,000. In the bronze medal position is last season's runner-up, which is Big Juffer. Good effort there, and the first over 200,000 points. In second place, with his best finish for quite a while, is Robert. Great score there, just shy of 250,000. But like so often has been the case, it's Graham taking the first win of the season. After initially complaining about the Japanese ROM, he has smashed it this week, with a huge 360,000. Great effort there on this tough game. So after about a month out, the graphs have made a return. Overall, we've got something vaguely resembling a normal distribution, which is about what you'd expect for this. There are big bonuses on offer for dropping off all of the POWs in one go, but that doesn't look like it's had a huge effect. Our token scores on the left are a chunk behind the main group. It's then close up the ranks, as we saw in the table. Juff and Robert are on their own, ahead of the pack. But up top in his own bin is Graham, with a great score on this tricky game. Definitely the class of the field. Next up is the difficulty curve. Other than a bit of jump early on, things are pretty linear. There are a couple of small plateaus, possibly corresponding to getting to the drop-offs, where the most points are available. Up at the top, there is a slightly steeper jump to Graham, which again shows the good effort here. Finally, we've got the score progress over the 2 weeks. Juff was the first to put in a strong score, before he traded top spot with Robert. Graham dropped his first score at the end of day 2, and led until the end. He upped his score during the first week, and no one was looking like getting close. Robert did beat his previous effort, and that was good enough for second place. We had a few people making good progress over the 2 weeks. Bob had a few shots and did well for 5th. I was also pleased to eventually put in a respectable score. I actually got beyond where Robert did, but didn't exploit the bonuses enough. So given this is the first game of the season, this week's result reflects the current standing. So let's find out what the next game will be. I've had 13 games sent to me from our players, and our most popular game was Krull, which got 3 votes. Kiki Kai Kai also got a couple of votes. Everything else got 1, including my choice of Karas, which I think would be good. Klax from Man Cave Arcade will also be right up my street as a puzzle game. So Graham's Wing gets his choice of King of Boxer trebled. Let's set things going and see what we get. Okay, slowing down, gone past Graham's selection. Or could it be Klax? Oh, very good. So yeah, Man Cave sent me this game earlier today, which was actually last night from the video being posted. But yeah, this is a puzzle game released by Atari. Kind of a bit of a Tetris come columns type game. So yeah, right up my street. I'll go make a video and be back in a sec. It is the 90s, and there is time for Klax. So our second game of the season is one that I'll be enjoying, but we'll see if everyone else does. The game is a falling block puzzle that has a somewhat unusual game mechanic. It was released by Atari in 1990, and your aim is to catch coloured blocks that run along a conveyor belt before depositing them into one of 5 columns. The aim is to line up 3 tiles in a row, with diagonal rows scoring more than horizontal, which score more than vertical. The difference in score is quite significant, so it looks like it's worth going for the diagonals, especially early on when the pace is slower. Interestingly, the game was developed using Amiga Basic, so I'm guessing the Amiga version is close to Arcade Perfect. The game appeared on almost every home system given its limited hardware requirements. There was even an Atari 2600 version, which was one of the last releases for the system. We're obviously using the arcade version with the Set 1 ROM, which should be klax.zip. We'll be using the default settings, which is moderate difficulty and with difficulty ramping on. We'll also be starting from level 1 and going from there. For next time, please send me games beginning with the letter L. There are a few decent games out there, including Ladybug, but surely we have to play Logger, the original game that Donkey Kong then cloned. So I hope you'll enjoy playing Klax as much as I will be, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with the scores. See you then.